heroes and legends, and welcome to the first day of Commander 2017 previews. Wizards has been busy all morning dropping a number of amazing previews that are very cat-centric, so it looks like today's theme is the cat deck. You're going to notice that as we go through today's preview cards, and my assumption is we'll be seeing some cards from the other sets over the next 3 days, and probably on Friday we'll get the full deck list, but I'll be definitely following all the coverage and reporting it back to you. Now, quickly before we get started on today's preview cards, there's a couple ways to support the channel you'll find in the description below, one of which is our Amazon affiliate store. If you make any purchases via the links there, and you will find a link down below for Commander 2017 products if you are looking to pre-order, but a small percentage will come back to help support the channel if you order through any of those links. Also, you'll find our Patreon page linked below as well. With that out of the way, let's get into the cards. We're going to start off with a card we already knew about. It's a Robo, Roar of the World. This is the feature commander for the cat deck. Now, this kind of got leaked a few weeks back. We did a video on it then and talked about it in great detail, so I'll try to stay kind of high level here. But basically, this card is an awesome commander. I mean, if you want to really go big with like one big trample creature getting in for damage and maybe holding some of your other creatures back for defense, this is a great way to do it. I love the Eminence ability that's on here, and my assumption is all 4 of the main commanders will probably have an ability with Eminence. This particular one, growing one of your cats +3/+3 every turn, even if this isn't on the battlefield, even if it's on the command zone, is actually pretty awesome. And on top of that, being able to pay a little extra mana into it when it is in play to give something +X/+X based on its power, and trample is pretty crazy to get that damage across, especially considering you'll have other things in this deck, no doubt, to buff your creatures. So yeah, awesome card. Only costs 5. You're just getting a ton of value here. But if you're not happy with this commander, let's look at a few other options that will be in the deck. The next one, Mirri, Weatherlight, Duelist. Now, this is a cheaper way to go. It costs a white, a green, and 1 legendary creature cat warrior, 3/2 first strike. Now, whenever this attacks, each opponent can't block with more than 1 creature this combat. And as long as this is tapped, no more than 1 creature can attack you each combat. So this does a couple things for you. First off, if you can get it tapped safely, which maybe will be tricky some of the time, but if you can do it, then you can protect yourself a little bit while you're building out your cat army. Secondly, when you're ready to attack in and finish off an opponent, this is a great way to do it. They can only block basically 1 of your creatures most of the time with this ability in play. So you're going to be able to get across a lot of damage, especially if you want to go wide. So this is a nice choice for a commander, maybe if you prefer going wide as opposed to going tall. And of course, there's plenty of ways I'm sure you can tweak these decks, and we'll explore those once we see the full deck list. But I also like the fact that this commander only would cost 3 for you. You can cast it early, you can cast it often, it's doing something different, and it's based on Mirri from the Weatherlight saga, which is pretty awesome too for the folks that are fans of Dominaria out there. Now, if you're not happy with those two, we got another option for you. This is Nizan, Revered Blacksmith. This one's a little more expensive, costs a white, a green, and 4. It's a cat artificer, legendary creature, 5/4, and whenever this enters the battlefield, search your library for an equipment card and reveal it. If you reveal a card named Hammer of Nizan this way, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put that card into your hand and shuffle your library. Whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, you may tap target creature defending player controls. Well, let's look at Hammer of Nizan. Costs 4 legendary artifact equipment, and whenever this or another equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach that equipment to target creature you control. The equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has indestructible, 4 to equip. Okay, so in conjunction, these cards work great together. I mean, you play this, whether it's your commander or not, and then you go ahead and tutor for the hammer. You get the hammer, it automatically attaches to whatever you want to attach it to, so you can just throw it on this card. It protects itself nicely, making it indestructible, also giving it a nice power buff. I like it a lot. I mean, nice combination between these two cards, and even if that's not what you're doing, you can still search for a different piece of equipment and throw it in your hand. And that could be just fine too in a lot of cases, especially considering there's some powerful equipment out there. Now, the hammer on its own isn't super exciting necessarily, but it does give something indestructible, so that is good. And it does automatically equip when you play it. So if you do cast it for 4, at least you already get to equip it to something. It gets a little awkward moving it around for 4 later, but again, indestructible is a good effect, so a lot of times you'll be happy to do it. Now, are there better artifacts that already exist in the world of Commander? Sure, but I do like the way that these cards work together in tandem, and I think they can be a lot of fun just generally in this deck. Alright, let's move on to some of the other cards you'll find in the deck. And we'll begin with Alms Collector. This costs a white and 3. It's a cat cleric 3/4 with flash. If an opponent would draw 2 or more cards, instead you and that player each draw a card. Now, important to point out for new players when I talk about this card just generally, all the cards from the Commander 2017 product are legal in Eternal formats. So that means they're legal in places like Vintage, Legacy, Commander, Cube, but they wouldn't be legal in formats such as Standard, Modern, Frontier if you play that. So it's important to note when we look at these cards that you can look at them not only in a Commander or even Cube eye, but you can also break them down for potential playability in Vintage or Legacy. Now, most of the time Wizards tries pretty hard to outcost them so that these cards don't necessarily fall very easily into formats like Vintage or Legacy. They want to make sure that these cards get into the hands of players that are more casual, that like to play Commander, that like Tribal and that type of thing. So they don't want to necessarily take the cards out of those players' hands, so they're careful about that stuff. With that being said, though, Alms Collector feels like maybe it has some Legacy Vintage potential, and the only reason I think that is because it's a great hose card, basically at instant speed with the flash, to mess up a lot of big card draw strategies, or just a lot of small strategies that keep your deck moving in those formats, like Brainstorm, for example. Like this card really messes up Brainstorm. It also messes up Time Twister style effects like Time Spiral and stuff, or Wheel of Fortune even. So it can really hurt Storm decks if played at the wrong time. So I do find this pretty interesting. So I don't know. It still costs 4. It's a little pricey. Maybe I would want to try it out as a sideboard card in Legacy or something like that. Not sure if it could get there. Aside from that, though, this can do a lot of great things. It's kind of a hate card in Commander or in Cubes or something like that, too. It's a very interesting card. I just want to keep my eye on this one. Balan Wandering Knight. 2 white and 2. It's a legendary creature. Cat Knight 3/3 with first strike. Now this will get double strike as long as you have 2 or more equipment attached to it. You can pay a white and 1, attach all equipment you control to Balan. So that's actually pretty interesting. Again, there's a lot of great equipment to choose from in the world of Commander. So throwing some equipment down, paying 2 to attach it all to this creature, it gets double strike on top of whatever else it's getting. That could be intriguing. So there's definitely an equipment sub-theme going on in this cat deck. I think that's pretty sweet. And again, you can tailor these decks and upgrade them any way you want. So maybe you use that third legendary creature as your commander and you throw some more of your own equipment into the deck and kind of tailor it and put your own spin on it. If that's the case and that's the direction you decide to go, this card's going to be great for you there. Set's Tiger. This one's actually a reprint. Costs 2 white and 2. It's a cat with flash 3/3. When this enters the battlefield, you gain protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. Now, this card is originally from Future Sight, and it was printed in the Future Sight border at that time. Now, this is the first time we're getting it in the regular Magic border, and the art actually looks really sweet. I like the background and everything that they did with the cards, so this would look awesome in foil. Unfortunately, can't get in foil in the Commander product, and that's kind of sad because the actual Set's Tiger card from Future Sight, I mean, they're under $1. You can probably pick them up for 50 cents, 75 cents, something like that. But the foils are like $10, $15. So it would have been cool if there was a way to get a foil, but maybe someday in the future. Right now, though, it's a fine card, definitely for what this deck's trying to do. Next is Stalking Leonin. Costs a white and 2 cat archer. Now we got a cat archer. That's awesome. 3/3. This enters the battlefield. Secretly choose an opponent. Reveal the player you choose and then exile target creature that's attacking you if it's controlled by the chosen player. Activate this ability only once. Well, I really hope this is a cycle. I like to see one of these at least in each of the decks. Maybe one for each of the tribes. I think that would be super sweet. And it's just a great multiplayer mechanic. Like, I really like the idea here. And it just seems like a lot of fun to play with. Next we have Hungry Lynx. This is a great 2-drop. It's a green and 1 cat 2/2. Cats you control have protection from rats. At the beginning of your end step, target opponent creates a 1/1 black rat creature token with Death Touch. Whenever a rat dies, put a +1/+1 counter on each cat you control. Okay, there's a lot going on here for 2 mana. You're getting a whole lot of value packed into this card, and that's pretty sweet. It's an awesome political card, too, for multiplayer games like Commander, and I always like cards like that. So when you break this down a little bit, you're basically giving your opponents the means to destroy each other's board states with these little 1/1 Death Touchers. As long as you have your card in play, your Hungry Lynx in play, you're safe. But if this goes away for some reason, you're not so safe anymore. So you got to think about your strategy here. Do you have ways to protect this card? Do you have ways to get it back if it goes away? And who are you giving the rat tokens to? Are you just kind of giving them to everybody, or are you giving them to one person trying to build an alliance? There's just so much that goes on here. And then if there is some sort of all-out war and rats start dying, well, guess what? Your cats get bigger. This gets sort of crazy. So I just really like the nuance of this card. It's not always going to work out in your favor, I have no doubt. But at the same time, it just seems really fun to try to get it there. And I also like this card maybe as a cube card if you play pack rats in your cube. This is a really interesting way to add some spice to anyone maybe hate drafting that strategy. Next we have Traverse the Outlands. This one's a green and 4. It's a sorcery. Search your library for up to X basic land cards where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Put those cards onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. Now this isn't necessarily only in the cat deck. Perhaps this shows up in the dragon deck or something. But at least for now, I'm assuming this, of course, will probably be in the cat deck since we're seeing it today. But overall, just feels like a good way to ramp in Commander. I mean, it costs 5. It's a little too expensive for your Vintage or Legacy or anything like that. But it does a lot for you in Commander. And if you have landfall effects, or maybe it's another good upgrade you could think about in the future, maybe throwing some landfall into this deck, maybe you find some value there. It could be some great value. This is also a card that maybe if you strip it out of this deck, you could throw it in like your Omnith Commander deck or something like that. It feels like it could be good there too. All right, our next card comes to us from a German language spoiler. It's Bloodforged War Axe, loosely translated. It costs 1. It's a artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0, and then whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of Bloodforged War Axe. Costs 2 to equip. What I like about this card, first off, is it's cheap. Costs 1 to play, 2 to equip. That feels pretty economical. Now, give something +2/+0, but it's going to make your opponent think about maybe chump blocking when normally they want it, and that could be good for you in the long run. But also, if you have a way to get some damage across, maybe an opponent that is stuck on getting some defense out or stuck on land or something, then you can use that opportunity to make copies of this card for you, which also could come in handy based on some of the other cards that we've seen earlier. I kind of wonder if Kemba from Scars of Mirrodin is going to be in this set as a reprint, or in this deck as a reprint, I should say, just because that card would be awesome. If you remember that card on your upkeep, basically every equipment you have in play, you get a 2/2 cat token. It just feels like it would be perfect in this situation. So I guess we'll see. If not, that'd be a great upgrade if you're playing with this. Now, in a vacuum outside of the particular deck, the card's okay. I don't know if it's anything super exciting, considering there's so many amazing pieces of equipment that have been printed in the past. So you do have to take that into account when you think about this card and maybe throwing it into a different deck. But again, it feels like it's good for what they're trying to do here. With that being said, those are the cards for today. Now, we'll have follow-up videos every day where we're going to go ahead and recap everything that comes out basically within the next 24 hours. And then my assumption is on Friday we will see full deck lists. And if that's the case, we'll begin breaking down each deck with our full deck review videos. So until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.